Today, we're going to dive into a story that I think is going to resonate with pretty much every teacher out there. It's a personal journey, really, about solving one of the most common problems in the classroom by using a pretty powerful approach, blended learning. So let's see how it all works. It really all starts with this one question. A question, I'm sure, that teachers ask themselves every single day. The teacher at the heart of this story found herself wrestling with this big time, especially when she realized her standard, whole-class approach to teaching math just wasn't cutting it for everyone. And the problem became almost impossible to ignore when she looped with her class. That's where she taught the same group of kids for both 3rd and 4th grade. Seeing them 2 years in a row made one thing painfully clear. Her whole group math instruction wasn't one size fits all, it was one size fits none. What was happening was, you had this huge split in the classroom. For her advanced students, the pace was just agonizingly slow. They already got it, so they were totally disengaged, totally bored. But then, for her struggling students, that exact same lesson was completely overwhelming, and they just felt even further behind. It was a classic lose-lose situation. So, heading into 4th grade with that very same group of kids, she knew something had to change, and I mean fundamentally change. She decided she was going to experiment with a totally new model, something that could finally break her and her students out of that one-size-fits-all trap. And here's what she landed on: blended learning. Now, this definition is so important. This is not just about sticking kids on computers. It's a really thoughtful mix of direct instruction from the teacher, the regular curriculum, and, this is the key part, adaptive digital tools. In her case, she used a platform called IXL to help make the learning personal for every single student. The results from this shift were, honestly, pretty powerful. And the best way to really understand the impact is to see it through the eyes of 3 very, very different students. Their stories really bring to life what's possible when you meet students exactly where they are. Okay, so first up, let's meet the high flyer. This is what we'd call a Tier 1 student, someone who's already working above their grade level. But in the old system, he was so bored during lessons that his frustration would just bubble up, and he'd often act out. Well, the transformation was incredible. In this new blended model, he had choice. As soon as he showed he mastered a concept, he could go work on a challenging project or on personalized recommendations from IXL. And just like that, his behavior got better and his motivation just skyrocketed. He was actually taking ownership of his own learning. And the result? Get this, by the end of the year, this 4th grader was consistently performing at a 6th grade math level. He wasn't just being kept busy, he was genuinely accelerating. It was amazing. Okay, next up, we have the on-the-cusp learner. This is a Tier 2 student who was so close to mastering the grade level stuff, but she had a few of these little nagging skill gaps that just kept holding her back and causing so much frustration. For her, this new model was a total game changer. Pretest figured out exactly what her gaps were, and the adaptive platform gave her a personalized practice path. And all of a sudden, she could actually see herself making progress. She went from being this constantly frustrated kid to a really confident and resilient learner. And finally, there was the struggling student. This Tier 3 learner needed the most support, and in the whole group lessons, she was just lost. The pace was way too fast, and it left her feeling completely overwhelmed every single day. Now, here's the crucial part. While the other students were busy working independently on their personalized paths, the teacher was freed up. This meant she could pull this student for really intensive small group and one-on-one time and pinpoint exactly where the trouble was, with things like regrouping or fractions. She finally got the focused support she needed to really build that fluency. So those stories show the incredible why behind all of this. But now let's get practical. Let's break down the how with 4 key strategies you can actually use to implement a model like this. All right, here's the playbook. First, you've got to use pre-assessments to figure out where everyone's at. Then it's all about finding that perfect balance between technology and teacher time. The whole thing also relies on flexible grouping based on real-time data. And, of course, keeping equity at the absolute center of everything. And that balance is so critical. Look, technology is fantastic for targeted practice, giving instant feedback, and tracking data. But it can never, ever replace what a teacher does best: building connections, asking those deep, higher-level questions, and fostering relationships. The tech supports, but the teacher guides. This whole journey, it wasn't just about changing up some teaching strategies. It really, fundamentally,
reshaped this teacher's understanding of her true role in the classroom and technology's proper place in it. So, here are the three biggest takeaways from her experience. First, personalization isn't just for kids who are struggling. It benefits everybody, especially those high flyers. Second, yeah, technology is a powerful ally, but it's the teacher's expertise and guidance that makes it all work. And finally, yes, this takes a lot of intentional planning up front, but the payoff you see in student growth is it's massive. Absolutely worth it. And if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this right here. This is the big paradigm shift. Blended learning is not about fixing what's wrong with students. It's an enrichment model. It is about creating a dynamic space where every single student has the chance to grow and to stretch and to succeed on their own terms.
So that leaves us with this final thought. You don't have to go and overhaul your entire classroom overnight. The advice here is to start small. Maybe try a pre-assessment for your next unit, or experiment with just one flexible group. So the real question is, what's one small step you can take to open up some new doors for your learners?